exactly has been transpiring in the world of business, and of course what exactly to expect going into the weekend and what to project next week. Well, to speak into that conversation later on in the show, we will be speaking to one Ken Geshinga, Chief Economist at Mentoria Consulting, a regular face here and a man with many years experience in terms of, well, reading the economic tea leaves and also giving us insight into what exactly we can expect. He is, of course, here with us in studio, and we'll be coming into that conversation later on as indicated. Also here today, the second 30-minute part of the show, we will be, of course, crossing over to the Nairobi Securities Exchange for this week's edition of the Trading Bell Conversation. What exactly is that? This week, the show talks to the CEO at Crown Berger. That, of course, is Crown Paints, one of the listed companies and the only company in Eastern Central Africa that manufactures road paint. That, of course, is the paint that you can see that paints the roads all around. I don't want to miss that conversation. Now, first off, of course, as usual, we want to cross over to the Securities Exchange and give you a look at what exactly the markets are saying. We will start off with a quick look at the various currency pairs. Of course, the dollar trading at 100.36 buying, 100.56 selling. Sterling pound pegged at 131.94 buying, 132.24 selling. While the euro is currently trading at 117.49 shillings and selling for 117.73 shillings. That, of course, is the situation today. And of course, these numbers will differ slightly depending on which entity commercially you walk into. Now, NSE performance, turnover, last trading session, 349 million shillings worth of shares bought and sold. Shares traded, some 10.1 million shares there. The NSE 20 share index pegged at 3,312.88 points, while bonds traded to the tune of some 3.5 billion shillings in terms of turnover. Well, what were the stocks that were driving this conversation? Safaricom, Earth River Mining, Cement, Kenya Power, and Mumia. Safaricom moving 1.97 million shares. Earth River Mining, Cement 699,700. Kenya Power 505,100 shares. And Mumia Sugar 434.6 shares. There are, of course, just below 500,000 shares there changing hands. Well, what were the bulls and bears of this trading session? These were the winning stocks of the day. Total up 7.32% to 33 shillings flat. Flame Tree Group 4.05% up to 3 shillings 85 cents. While Scan Group was up 3.33% to 15 shillings and 50 cents. British American Tobacco there 3.16% up to 620 shillings flat. Now, last off, of course, the stocks that, well, sort of lost value. These were the losing stocks of the day. The bears, Standard Group shedding 8.33% to 27 shillings 50 cents. Everett East Africa 6.90% down to 1 shilling 35 cents. Longhorn Publishers 6.67% down to 4 shillings 20 cents. And Mumia Sugar continuing to trend downwards, 6.67% down on the day to 70 cents. Well, that's a quick look at what exactly the markets have been saying. And of course, some of that conversation will return to later on in the show. But for now, to the stories that are driving this conversation, this is the news of the day now. East Africa Breweries Limited, EABL, has reported a 15% decline in profit after tax, attributing the decline to a one-off tax provision which slashed performance in what would otherwise have been a relatively good year. The company reported a 5% revenue growth to hit 73.5 billion shillings for the year, as performance significantly improved in the second half with net sales up 10%. The company's investments in the year reinforced key pillars of its 2022 growth strategy and have started yielding returns with greater focus and now on scaling up brands growth in line with emerging trends.
Since this half started, that was January, we've posted very strong results. It's an indicator that after we finished with the electioneering, everybody went back to what they're supposed to do and do business. So I expect going forward, We've seen the recovery of bottled beer doing very well, particularly on the half. We've seen Senator come back strongly, and we continued with our bullish performance in spirits. So going forward, I expect even stronger performance from the business.
One of the things that we are pleased about with the new strategy is it's simple, it's clear, and everybody knows what they need to do to prosecute that strategy in a way that delivers our growth agenda. And you've seen evidence of that in half two. I hope it's not lost on you, Yuri's comment that in H2 that represented the fastest growth for 6 years, fastest growth for over half a decade. So that's what we want the strategy to continue to deliver. And the way we're going to do that in F19 is, top of the list is our biggest investment. We want to make sure that we fully commercialise that new brewery for a number of reasons. Firstly, there's great revenue to be had out of that. But secondly, commercialising the brewery means we also commercialise the income for 15,000 additional farmers.
Of course, that company right there, East Africa Breweries Limited, making a strong push for the western part of Kenya and the eastern parts of neighboring countries. Now, installation of a CAT scan machine at Iten County Referral Hospital has been seen as a panacea to numerous incidents of emergency cases the health facility has been handling, especially from victims of cattle rustling. The public health facility that serves residents of Elgeyo Marakwet County has always been faced with numerous challenges, as Dr. Mary Waigwa, a radiologist at the hospital, confirmed. The government has contracted Newsoft Medical Systems, a Chinese medical equipment manufacturing company, to supply the new health kit, which, though costing quite a lot, is expected to save locals millions.
Machine which is about to be installed, this will go a long way in helping this county and the counties that are nearby in terms of referrals.
Itakuwa inatusaidia sana kama hata mtu akipata ajali ama nini ama magonjwa yote ambayo iko kwa mwili, itakusaidia sana ujue ni ugonjwa gani unaumia, hasa kwa wamama wenye wako na kansa ya matiti ama shida yoyote kwa mwili. Itakuwa mzuri ijulikane uko na ugonjwa gani alafu utibiwe mapema.
Tulikuwa tunahangaika sana, hauna transport ya kwenda kutibiwa mahali kama Eldoret, Nairobi, wengine wanaenda Russia, America. Nimefurahia sana hii mashini kuja Iten ambayo inaitwa CT scan.
Well, staying with that same story at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, MTRH, it's among 36 other public health facilities that are being equipped with a CAT scan machine, which is a project that is being implemented by the Ministry of Health under the Managed Equipment Services, or MES. At the hospital, a more sophisticated CAT scan machine is being installed, which a radiologist at the facility, Lois Coronay, said will help since they have a very big catchment area. In a day, they say they receive about 80 patients requiring CAT scan machines. It serves other referral hospitals in the entire northern Rift region and the western part of the country. And being along the highway connecting Kenya and other East African countries, there are several patients who rely on the facility from outside Kenya. They include people from South Sudan and parts of Ethiopia, as well as Uganda.
Facilities from the northern part of the country, up to and including South Sudan and parts of Ethiopia. So we still receive some of their patients, and therefore this facility will not only help us, but even some of our neighboring countries.
Our customers, that is the clientele, the clients that are going to be visiting us here. These clients have been going somewhere because we have the 64 electricity machine here, just like any other place. But we could not still actually satisfy the demand. It's going to serve the Kenyan people. It is going to actually be cost-friendly, and we are going to ensure that this machine will do the work it is brought here to do.
Well, to some really cheerful news for the youth now, with AVIC International preparing for the Africa Technology Challenge Season 5. The top winners have a chance to win a manufacturing contract worth a whopping 10 million shillings. The new season aims to empower the youth in technical training institutions with practical skills. A total of 27 teams from various educational institutions from across Africa will undergo training, where 108 young men and women will acquire new skills. Well, to some green news now. For years, tomato farmers have suffered huge losses due to the devastating effect of the tomato leaf miner, popularly known as the Tuta absoluta. Now, Tuta absoluta is a moth that can cause up to a 100% loss in tomatoes, the second largest grown and arguably the most consumed vegetable in Kenya, that is valued at more than 40 billion shillings annually. Now, Corporate Biological Systems and Kenyatta University have been involved in a 3-year project dubbed Salvaging Tomato Production in Kenya. The full project title was Development, Validation and Dissemination of the Integrated Pest Management Packages for Affecting Tomato Production in Kenya. The project saw the training of farmers on how to deal with the pest to ensure that they minimize losses, while at the same time using the same farmers to train other farmers in the fight against the moth. Corporate Biologicals has also introduced a number of integrated biological solutions that can help farmers in that same fight.
Panda si kufaidika, hata nilikuwa nataka kuacha kwa sababu zilikuwa na challenges nyingi sana. Kwa sababu tukimwaga nyanya ukipanda, kuna magonjwa inashika huko chini, inakataa kutoa mizizi vizuri, inakuwa na kitu kama nematodes nini. Sasa mmea haukui. Sasa kukaa na challenges nyingi sana. Lakini wakati nilijaribu mwaka mmoja, wa pili, watatu, wakati nilikuwa nataka kwenda nyumbani, ndio nilipatana na maagromist wengine, wakaniambia wataweza kunisaidia.
Around 2014-2015, Tuta absoluta was a new pest in the country. It's an invasive pest which has found its way all the way from South America. So farmers were confusing it for all manner of things, thinking it's a fungal disease, so they would spray fungicides and not get solutions. But thankfully, the government was able to identify it as Tuta absoluta, a pest, a caterpillar. And we as COPAD partnered with Kenyatta University to undertake some research to find the best solution for this pest and also to involve farmers in the process.
The 3-year project has been very, very exciting in the sense that we have been trying to promote the integrated pest management packages. In other words, holistic management of pests and diseases on tomatoes.
Tuta absoluta indeed. Now the government has this financial year allocated about 700 million shillings towards the supply of water to the Naivasha Industrial Park, whose works have already started. The multi-billion shilling project is located in the semi-arid area of Mai Mahiu and is constructed next to the ongoing standard gauge railway SGR line that ends next year. According to the CS in charge of water and sanitation, Simon Chelogwe, the park, which would host tens of industries, would require a lot of water and manpower.
Sio hii project peke yake. Tunajua watu wa Shoka hawajakunywa maji. Etiguo. Na kuna maji ishapimwa hapo, tukaambiwa hapo ni borehole. Tunajua iko pesa mingi kwa serikali. Hiyo borehole ikifanywa hapo itapea watu wa Gitango, itapea mpaka Kahuho. Ni hivyo ama si hivyo? Sababu lazima tuangalie kila mtu afungue kamfereji kwake.
Mnajua tuko na mradi kubwa sana Kenya mzima, inaitwa Itare. Hii dam inachimbwa kule Njoro, Molo huko juu, na inaleta maji kupitia chini ya mchanga. Tunachimba tunnel na dam ilete maji Nakuru, na ikibaki ifike upande huu wa Gilgil. Hiyo mradi tumepata usaidizi kwa serikali na wananchi wa Italy, bilioni 43.
Well, that of course is good news right there for many residents in the larger Naivasha area, which tends to be semi-arid. Of course, that water coming all the way from the Itare Dam. Now, in many organizations, procurement is still a part of a segmented structure in which the procurement of supplies is a discrete activity in the sequence of activities that form the acquisition of supplies to the delivery of a finished product to the ultimate user. The challenge of global competition then is, however, increasingly leading many organizations to replace segmented structures with integrated ones in which procurement is part of a larger grouping. Take a look.
Procurement is changing. These days, procurement officials are the ones procuring even the leasing product.
Any organization has to succeed, it must focus on its supply chain procurement and logistics, because that is where a lot of resources are utilized.
One is you need a stable legal and regulatory environment. Two, you need access to affordable capital. Thirdly, you need to be able to unlock the potential of human resources that are in that jurisdiction. And last, and certainly not least, is to have effective procurement and supply chain management.
Well, indeed, of course, the fact that is part of an ongoing conversation in which to mainstream the procurement of goods and services further. Now, that conversation right there brings us to the segment of the show where we take a backwards look at what exactly has been happening in the week and use that to extrapolate a projection for the next week. And to do just that, Ken Geshinga, Chief Economist at Mentoria Consulting, here in studio. Karibu sana.
Asante sana for having me.
Yeah, so I think the simplest and the best way to start is to simply get your take on what exactly you think was the biggest story this week and why that would be the case.
I think the opening up of Ethiopia as an investment destination. We've had KCB, Safaricom, and even today we had Simbacolt are all looking at opportunities in Ethiopia. And I've said this in the past, Ethiopia is a sleeping giant.
Yes.
And it seems that the new young president is very youthful, very vibrant, and he really wants to create a lot more investment capital into Ethiopia. So I think that's going to be a major game changer moving forward.
One of the things that Ethiopia has going for it is the fact that it has a very large population, most of them youthful, most of them starting to come into the money-making segment. It would seem strange that just today we were discussing here the continued push to curb population growth, but it seems to be a plus in other countries. How do you balance the two then?
The people who make population look as an asset, other people make it look like a liability. But if you really think about the BRICS, for example, these are one that was coined almost a decade ago. And the one thing they have in common is they have massive population. Well over Ethiopia has almost 100 million people. Granted, the education levels can improve, the ability to communicate maybe in English with the rest of the world. Those are the things that can maybe sophisticate the market. But the fact that you have 100 million people who want to participate in a regional economy, any chief executive officer needs to take that seriously.
Let's talk about the other big story today, the fact that East Africa Breweries Limited, there's some 73 billion shillings in top line in revenue for the year, huge numbers.
Right.
We are starting to see the company going very big into Western Kenya, and the projection is that that will grow their balance sheet even further, especially seeing as they've put about 15 billion shillings into the factory and then into about 15,000 farmers across that regional area. Where do you see this going?
You're right. I think the fundamentals are very strong because the underlying base market is a young, youthful market that is consuming their products in events, at homes, and for me, that's only going to continue. I think what they need to look at is areas around competition, which they have done very well in terms of building a strong brand, and also opening up in the other bigger cities across the country. Obviously, Nairobi and Mombasa have been their biggest markets, but now areas around Nakuru, Eldoret, Western, all those are places where there is a new middle class coming up. So I think if you look at those numbers as a fundamental, then any investor in that stock should be fairly confident.
In the numbers that they put out, the fastest single segment in terms of growth was spirits in double digits, between 20 and 30%. And essentially, this remains a huge market out there. Whiskies, rums, those sorts of things. These are things that many Kenyans were not used to before, but now seem to be in vogue. Why do you think this is the case?
You know, we always say Kenyans are it's a peculiar country because when I talk to a lot of businessmen out there, they say they're facing a lot of cash crunch challenges. Maybe you've supplied services to the county government or the national government and you've not gotten your payment on time. So that creates a lot of rigidity. But somehow on the weekends, Kenyans always seem to have some disposable income for these very high-end liquors.
Could this then, sorry to interrupt you, be pointing to the inequality in the economy? Because at one extreme end, people, the so-called upper level of the middle class you're talking about, may be flush with cash, but there's no trickle down to the rest of the economy, which would actually be sort of alluded to, because in the same numbers, Senator Keg was marginally down, and due to various factors, but one of the things was the, of course, fallout from the elections and the continued impact on the economy.
It could be, but I'm also referring to those upper middle class people that you're referring to. Even they, when I speak to many of them, are having some major cash challenges. But for one reason or another, there's always ways to find something on Fridays and on Saturdays. So for me, it's one of those areas where I think the companies have discovered this is a very virgin territory, that even during economic tough times, there'll still be some disposable income that's set aside for that kind of consumption. So I think for them, they're very happy with that kind of dynamic.
One challenge that that business and others continues to face is illicit in various ways, be they parallel imports, be they counterfeits, and those sorts of things. Now, many Kenyans, even as they start to consume these whiskeys and other premium liquor, are not used to the taste, so really wouldn't know what's an original Johnny Walker, Thackeray, or something else, as opposed to something that has been made in Kariobangi. So what do you think needs to happen going forward to enable these companies start to consolidate the market and protect it from all these grey things that are going on in the market?
Obviously, there's an element of education that these companies have to, because even these are alcohols that have to be consumed responsibly, and they have sort of played that role in an effective way. But I can't remember any campaign that helped people distinguish between a fake Johnny Walker and an authentic one. And you'll go to the biggest supermarkets and find some of these fake products in there, and which can actually cause food poisoning. And I've seen people suffer from food poisoning from such things. So I think it's an area they can do a lot more campaign education.
Let's talk about agriculture, especially seeing that it's such a big aspect of our economy, and the fact that there are various efforts, not in the list of which today is the Nyeri International Trade Fair. Lots of agriculture coming through there. A few hours ago, we saw them being told about thing they call it cherry tomato, and some people saying this is just a snack. So these sorts of things, how do we start to drive our farmers towards new technology, new crops that will appeal to a bigger audience and international markets?
Well, it begins with exposure and helping them understand what is value addition in their particular sector. Think of a fruit such as a plum.
Yes.
You know, it's a very interesting fruit. It grows in certain parts of the Rift Valley. Not many people fully understand what more can you do with a plum. You can create jam. You can have a whole jam manufacturing subsector. So I think first it begins with the exposure. After the exposure, now it's how do you get people to create small industries where plums can be sort of transformed into jam. And that requires some capital, and that's where the county government can really help churn in some of the investment capital in those kind of areas. But at the end of the day, if it all comes down to value addition.
Well, on that note, Ken, thank you very much for your time. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but asante sana for coming in and sharing the insights with us. Of course, reading the economic tea leaves, as we put it. Thank you very much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Peter.
Yeah, on that note, we want to bring it to a close for this half of the show. Of course, over the next 30 minutes, we will be taking you to the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Abi Agene will be sitting down with the CEO of the Crown Paints to give insights into just what exactly that company is doing to drive its economy and your economy forward over the next few months. Well, do stay with us for that and continue to enjoy your viewing.